Welcome back to Average Home Theater. I am Nelson.
Dominic?
He's Dominic. And today, as you can tell by the title, we're going to talk about some of our favorite opening scenes to movies, right? This was your idea. What made you come up with this?
Well, I know we wanted to shoot another couple of videos, and I was like, what's something that we haven't done yet? We've done a lot with sci-fi, we've done a lot with movie deep dives, but I was like, we've never done opening scenes, and that just sounded something fun to do, something a little bit different, and giving a chance to highlight on the beginning of a film because, a lot of times that can make or break, that's either going to pull you in or it's not. So it seemed like a fun route to go.
Yeah, and I didn't really think about it. When you first brought it up, I was kind of like, well, I don't know. And then I started going through my movies and thinking, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this scene that gets you hooked. That scene, it gets you
Right.
hooked. And sometimes it's a good movie and sometimes it's not. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it was kind of fun to put this little list together. Now, unfortunately, we're only going to have time to do five. I mean, we can do this
Right.
probably all day long and talk about all kinds of movies, but I just had to pick out, five that I thought were, in my opinion, the best that I have. And that's just what I rolled with. I stuck with it, and that's what I'm going to roll with.
Yeah, and it was a little harder than I thought it would be once I narrowed it down because I could think of, like maybe a dozen or so, and then I kind of whittling it down a little bit to yeah.
And then there were some where I was like, oh, yeah, that is awesome. And then I started thinking, I actually went on my phone and started previewing. I was like, nah, that's not nearly as awesome as I
I
thought
did
it
a little bit of
was.
that too. And this is just, yeah, I'm sure it is to you, but for me as well, just our favorites. It's not necessarily all the best of the best, just kind of what we like.
You reminded me of my man Jamie Ray from Fave 5 from Fans. He does not believe in the word top or best. It's
Oh, okay.
favorite, so
Right.
it's almost like we're stealing from Jamie, but we're not.
It was unintentional.
Right? It was unintentional. So anyway, well, let's get started. You
All right.
go first.
All right. So I'll start with my fifth one. I went Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
So, um, you know, historical reasons. We all know it's a true story. Beginning of World War II, historically important and all that for sure. But the way they go into it was really cool, especially when I saw it at the time. Because this was, I believe it
Late
was late
90s.
90s, yes. And, huge cast. You have Tom Hanks, Sizemore, you have Matt Damon. I mean, you have Ted Danson, you have a young Vin Diesel. Like, there's a lot of characters in it. But the way it starts out is, you have the old man, okay, and he's walking, and he's got like this weariness in his eyes, he's got this heaviness in his heart and in his eyes, like the way they shot it. And he goes to the cemetery, and you see all the white crosses, which, evokes an emotion to anybody that's even remotely passionate about the country or patriotic. And you see all that, and then they do something real cool because he's staring, and then all of a sudden you go into his eyes, and then you're at D-Day.
Yeah.
Storming Normandy.
That was, man, look, that was a big deal. Because of the how can I put it? I don't want to say technology, but I guess technology. But
Mhm.
they really hit it out the park of making it feel realistic. Because I can just remember people saying, "Oh my God, that was just gut wrenching," and all that type of stuff. And
Mhm.
I actually refused to watch it because it came out right before I joined the military, and I was like, "I'm not watching that crap."
Oh,
No, I'm
yeah.
not. I'm not watching that. So I didn't watch it for several years because of that, because I was too chicken. But I ended up watching it,
I mean,
and
you should be chicken after you watch it. I mean, it would scare anybody
mhm.
thinking of, like, it's not, yes, it's got the production value of a Hollywood movie, but like it felt so real, like they're shaking,
Yeah.
the water's kicking up right as they hit the beach, bodies are dropping. Like I've never seen a D-Day invasion before or after done quite like that. I mean, that stuck with me. I mean, even more like the movie was great, but that first scene is like glued into my
Well, that's what
mind.
everybody, when they think
Yeah.
of Saving Private Ryan, that's what they
Yeah,
think
that
of.
first
Yep,
scene
yep.
is incredible and very well done. Very historic. I mean, the soldiers are crying. Some are making it, some are not. Like it's almost too real.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
it definitely resonated. That's for sure.
So I had to include that on the list.
Cool. That's a good one. That's a very good one. And I guess the reason why I didn't think of that is because, like I said, I think I've only seen it twice.
Uh-huh.
I do own it somewhere in there. But that didn't even cross my mind. But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That is a great one.
And that's not, that one is, I don't pull it out a whole lot either because it's like an investment.
Mhm.
It's not like just turning it on. But yeah, and I'm glad we don't have the same ones. I was hoping it was switched up. We don't know each other's lists. We kept it fresh for the video, so hopefully we'll get some surprises.
We won't have a crossover on this one. My number 5 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
So it starts out, you hear this noise, it's like, and you don't know what the heck it is. It's a very eerie sound.
Obviously the 70s version.
It's the 70s. Okay. And there's a news radio, there's a thing, voice, and they're talking about basically someone's grave robbing.
Okay.
And putting out the bodies on display. And it's kind of freaky. But anyway, and as the camera is slowly panning backwards, panning out, and it's a crime scene photographer that's what that noise is. It's the camera flash and all of that making the noise.
But you don't know it at first.
But you don't know it at first.
That's cool.
So it definitely, it is gross. It's creepy. The whole movie's gross and dirty, but that little opening scene, it's like 2 or 3 minutes or whatever, really sets the tone for what you're about to get into.
You're right.
And yeah, so that's your homework, is to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You live in Texas. I mean, come on, man. That should be like I don't know, like a rite of passage for a Texan to have watched it. But yeah, it's definitely an attention getter.
Right.
Is what it is.
I vaguely remember what you're saying because, in the early 2000s, I worked at a video store, and I remember one of the guys putting it on after hours, like when we were cleaning up the store.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember some of the sound, and I was like, what is that?
Yeah,
so,
that's very good. Like, oh my God, it's very eerie.
Yeah, unsettling.
Very unsettling. And as it finally pans out, you see it's in a cemetery, and someone had taken a body out and done some terrible things.
Right.
And yeah.
And what I remember of that too is that when they shoot it, it's almost like what you don't see is more traumatizing than what you do see. Like they at times.
Yeah,
it's not
some stuff.
Well, I'll need to rewatch it because I just remember a little bit of it.
So you have seen it, you just haven't like sat down.
Yeah, watched it like fully. It was
sit down and watch it in the dark. It makes it better.
Definitely when the kids are asleep, for sure.
Absolutely. Even your wife, you don't want her to see that.
Well, cool. That was a good one. Number 4 for me, I'm gonna go Watchmen. That opening scene of Watchmen, like sometimes I put that on and I just watch the opening scene, so I had to include this. It was a alternative kind of superhero movie, kind of ahead of its time because it was very dark. It was an alternate history.
It was the beginning of Zack Snyder slow motion action.
Right. There's a lot of that. But it starts with it's like a news conference, and you have different alternative versions of celebrity characters, and they're talking about the doomsday clock, like we're itching closer to doomsday because of the things going on in the world. And then it kind of pans out, and you're with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays the comedian, and he's older, and he's smoking a cigar. He's kind of trying to relax, and he hears what's going on. He flips it to like a music video of like a girl and like a guy, and like just trying to chill out. We've all had moments like end of the day, it's dark, no one's up, and you're just taking a moment. That's what he's doing. And all of a sudden, bang, someone breaks into the room, murders him. After a very good fight scene, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
In the dark, very brutal. It's not brutal as in like you see a little bit of blood, but it's more just like slamming them down on coffee tables.
Yeah, it's
punching holes in walls.
Well, they're superheroes,
right?
So
yeah, it has like a grittiness to it too. Mm-hmm. And then he gets thrown out the window. He dies. But then it zooms in on the smiley face button, and then it flashes back to like everything that happened before, and like all this like lore that you learn of, and like how it was in the 40s and in the 50s being a superhero, and all these celebrations, and like Dr. Manhattan shaking John F. Kennedy's hand in front of the White House, and the comedian assassinating JFK, and like all this alternate history that I'm just like a junkie for. You see hippies put like a rose into a gun and someone shoots it. Very artistically done. John Lennon song plays over it. I mean, that intro is awesome. I had to include it.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it.
Yeah.
But I do need to watch it again. But yeah, that's a really good movie, and I remember the opening scene being really neat.
Yeah, it was like one of the best scenes in a good movie. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right, my number 4, classic Jurassic Park.
Mm.
I can remember going watching the theater at 13 years old and seeing the vehicle back up with the big crate. You don't know exactly what's going on until you hear the dinosaur, and it ended up being the raptor. You can hear it kind of shuffling around, and they go to open up the gate to let the raptor into the park, and then it knocks the guy down, and all hell breaks loose, and
Shoot!
all that stuff. I mean, it's just, and when you watch it in any room with good surround sound, I mean, you hear the damn raptor breathing behind you, screaming, and they're trying to tase it and all that good stuff. So I don't know, that is an attention getter. I mean, I remember 13 years old, you're seeing something like this for the first time. Not current 13-year-olds, y'all are all desensitized, but 13-year-olds in 93,
right?
That was just amazing.
Absolutely.
And so it's still one of my favorite opening scenes. I mean, every time I put it in, I mean, you and I watched it in here.
You showed it to me, yeah.
The 3D version.
Right.
So yeah, it's just that's a great opening scene to me.
Absolutely. I was 8 when it came out. I remember it. It was a big deal. And that was one that I like almost included. That one stuck with me too. That's a good one. And that logo you see on the workers' helmets, it's like so iconic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we see
like the Ghostbusters logo. It's very iconic. But no, that's a great one. And I like how they cut around the raptor. You don't see everything yet.
Can't show the monster too early.
Right. So that was good. That's a great one.
Actually, you don't see the raptors till the very end. Remember, you see when they're feeding them, they see the trees rustling and all of that, but you don't see the raptors until
you don't get them up close till the end. Yeah, like in the kitchen scene and stuff. You're right. Okay, so for my number 3, I went ahead and went T2, Terminator 2.
That one crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I didn't quite make it.
That's kind of how Jurassic was for me. That's cool. So, with sci-fi, a lot of times in those style of movies, you're in an alternate world or not in the exact world we're in now, right? So there's a lot of setup, so for them to be able to pull up a lot of setup and for it to be entertaining and look good, incredible feat, right? And in T2, just the way it starts, like you kind of see the traffic and then it fades out and you see the skulls. Everyone remembers the skulls on the ground. And then
the Terminator crushing it.
That shot of the Terminator would scare me when I was a kid, because that was one of those ones that
was. No, I'm joking.
That snuck in, and I saw it. I was probably, I don't know, like 5 or 6 or 7 at the most, because it was definitely before Jurassic Park. Just that shot of the exoskeleton breaking the skull, and then the red eyes with the dark background. He's holding the gun. You see the troops.
Oh man, that was huge, man.
That was,
you're talking 1990 or 91. Was it 90 or 91?
I think it was 91.
That was groundbreaking stuff, man.
Absolutely, and it still looks good. It still looks good today. Almost 40 years later.
30.
Yeah, 30 something years later. Yeah. So, and then the voiceover by Linda Hamilton, who plays Sarah Connor. All the billions of lives that ended in 1997. I'm not saying it exactly, but the survivors called it Judgment Day. They lived to face a new nightmare, one against the machines. And then it sets up John Connor. And then it says, okay, we're going to go back. And then you have the fire with the Terminator skull. It's really well done. It definitely gets you into the movie.
Especially for people that, I mean, the first movie came out in 84, and back then you had to wait a few years for a sequel. You didn't get a sequel 6 months later.
And it wasn't always guaranteed. So you're talking 7 years around before they got the sequel. So people, I mean, go and see that in the theater. People had to be like
hyped and
Oh,
mind-blowing.
absolutely. Yeah, because I watched it on VHS.
Yeah, I was
So
only
I can only
10,
imagine.
so I wasn't quite old enough for my mammy to take me there. And she'll rent movies all day long, but
Right.
we didn't go to the theater that often.
And yeah, and you know, this just crossed my mind too while we're talking about it. Arnold's not in the intro.
Mm-mm.
You know, so that's interesting. You know, obviously the type of Terminator he is with no skin on is in the intro, but you know, as big of a part of Arnold is in that movie, he is not in the intro, and it's still relevant.
Well, because they
Still
wanted
fun.
the first time you see him to be
Yeah.
transporting back.
So that was cool. That was cool.
So this one, you and I just reviewed this one not that long ago.
Okay.
And I remember whenever I watched it, I was like, man, I just love this. The opening scene to Christine.
Oh, okay.
Remember the credits start and it's an engine.
Uh-huh.
You know, you just hear the engine crank or whatever.
Very
and
John
then,
Carpenter.
Then eventually, right whenever the movie starts, after the kind of opening credits, it's Bad to the Bone starts playing.
Yeah.
And then you see Christine, all the other cars are white, but Christine is red.
That's right.
So you're like, hey, what's going on? You know, you were probably just thinking that whenever you watched it.
Uh-huh.
And everything looks normal. And then boom, she slams her hood on the guy's fingers. And you're like, uh-oh.
That was unexpected.
Yeah, we're in for a treat.
Absolutely. And then the guy ashes his.
Yeah, and she suffocates him or whatever it is she does.
Right.
You know, they don't really show it, but so yeah, you know you're in for a treat. Now you have a car murdering people in opening credits of a movie.
Right.
So I think it's a very good setup, and it's one of my favorite openings. I like it.
And the second movie on our list to play Bad to the Bone, because T2 does it too, but little.
Oh yeah,
movie.
when he gets the motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I right when you said that, I started reliving it in my head. That was a good one. My number 2, I had to include it. The opening narrators, the favorite opening of the indie movies. It grows on me every time I watch it. We've talked about it before, but I love how much time they took with it. You know, the Paramount logo fades into the mountain, South America, 1936. You're in the jungle. It feels real. Indy comes up out of the shadows. The famous scene where he goes into he bypasses all the booby traps, switches out the idol for the sandbag, but doesn't do it perfect. He gets chased by the big boulder, and then the natives or the Indians, and then he escapes in the biplane like that.
Yeah, it's a really good.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, like we discussed, I'm not a huge Indiana Jones guy, but it's definitely fun. Anytime I think of Indiana Jones, that is what I think of.
Right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, the opening scene.
Yep.
The giant boulder. That's just what most people associate those two things.
Totally. And that one, like I said, it's when I started thinking of opening scenes, that was the first one I thought of. And I'm like, man, we've already reviewed that. But I'm like, I got to include it because that's one of the iconic openings that stick with me.
Oh, yeah. So, that's definitely a good one. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Next, this one, it's probably the most intense opening scene I've ever seen. Okay. And I'm talking like you start to sweat while you're watching it.
Wow.
Because you're like, okay, what is going to happen? And that's the opening scene to Inglourious Bastards.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
The intro of the Jew hunter, and he's basically interrogating, you know, that family because he knows that the Jewish people are hiding under the house, but he's basically trying to get them to tell him that. And it is just, it's crazy. It stresses me out to watch that. And it goes on for like almost 10 minutes, it feels like.
It's long.
It's like, holy crap.
And that poor farmer, like he's just like, he's defeated. He's defeated right when he walks into the door. And
it's like on The Burbs. They know that we know that they know that we know. Yeah.
Exactly. Christoph Waltz as they call him the Jew hunter.
Yep.
Like I think he might have
won.
Yeah, he won for that. That is intense, man. Him going into that room, and then when he's asking him the question, the camera pans down,
Yeah,
and then you see
shows
them
you under there. Shows them under there. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I wrote it on my honorable mentions. I almost included it. So that's a very good one. And Rogue One borrowed a lot from that in their first scene.
Oh yeah,
when he
yeah,
goes
you're right.
to the farm. But no, that one, that's a very good one. Tarantino, one of his best, especially that opening.
Yeah, I had another Tarantino, but I didn't want to put two movies on the list. We'll kind of talk about the honorable mentions afterwards. But
Sure.
yeah, I had another one, but this one is by far the most intense opening scene that I can think of.
It is very intense, especially because you know what's going on.
Well, you figured out real quick that it's not going to end well.
Right. And he's taking his time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's, playing with his prey.
Sadistic. I mean,
yeah. Because he's like asking for milk and like it's like going so slow. So the first one I put down, it's stuck with me since I was in high school, Gladiator. The opening scene of Gladiator, it's at the height of the Roman Empire. You meet Maximus, played by Russell Crowe. And, when they first show him, he's like looking at a bird, and then later he's rubbing the dirt in his hands. That's always stood with me. Like, as gruesome and tough as a fighter as he can be, he's like in touch with like the earth and like the things around him. He's more than just brawn. But the way his armor looks when he's
cold.
It's cold. They're in it says Germania, where he's at.
It's been a while.
And he's walking, and all the troops are like, saluting him. As he's going through. And then you have that barbarian holding the head up, yelling at him. And one of my favorite quotes in all the movies is, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." And he's yelling. He's like, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." How true, right? Like what you do on Earth has ramifications. Mm-hmm. No matter what you believe or what you do, it has ramifications throughout. And he's joking. He's like, "You're in Elysium and you're already dead." Like he's got a sense of humor with it. He gets the troops excited. It's a fun opening. Yeah. The arrows.
And I saw Gladiator on there, but it didn't really pop for me.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one
is great.
The ones.
And it's like I said, we could talk about this and have a list a mile long.
Right.
But when you're trying to consolidate into 5, it's very tough. Difficult.
It's tough. But yeah, no, it's very good opening to a very good movie.
Cool deal. All right. Well, my number one it's by my favorite director. No, not really, but he's good. He's one of your favorites, and you already mentioned one of his movies. That's the 2004 Dawn of the Dead by Zack Snyder.
Wow,
have you ever seen it?
I have not seen Dawn of the Dead.
Well, thanks for joining us. Come on, man.
I know, and I like Zack Snyder a lot. I've seen a lot of his stuff.
Movie. In my opinion,
that's interesting.
That is my favorite Zack Snyder movie. Is the 2004 Dawn of the Dead.
You're pretty fair because, like, you've voiced that you're not.
But I still include him as my favorite opening scene in a movie. So the main character is Sarah Polley, and she is a nurse. She's an RN. She working nights, whatever. They show her finishing up her shift, and by the time, of course, she gets off, it's daytime. It's morning.
Okay.
So she goes home and she meets her fiance is home, or I can't remember if it's her fiance or her husband, but anyway, they. Hey, how you doing? Kiss. Go to the little neighbor girl was in the driveway when she got home and on her little roller skates, and so they don't have any kids, but they kind of really, I guess, look after this girl, friends with her,
right? And
so they go to sleep, and then they wake up, and someone opens the door to their bedroom, and it's the little girl.
Oh,
so the little girl, the guy, the boyfriend, husband, whatever, he's like, "Oh, it's so and so. Is everything okay?" And he can kind of see blood on her face. He's like, "What is
creepy."
It? So he goes up to her, and then of course she attacks him. She bites him on the neck, starts pulling. And he's like, and so Sarah Polley grabs her, throws her down the hall, and it's whenever the trailer came out. This part was in the trailer, and everybody's like, "Oh my god." So the girl flies and slides, and then she gets up and she like jumps. She goes from being on her back to like on her.
Oh, wow.
And she starts running towards it really fast because, before that, traditional zombies were slow.
Oh, slow,
So
right.
this was the first. I think it was one of the first times we saw fast zombies like that.
Which is funny
Um,
coming from Snyder, who's
right.
always accused of slow-mo.
So there's no slow mo in this movie. So she closes the door or whatever, but then her husband, boyfriend transforms and he starts attacking her.
Oh,
Then
God.
she gets outside and then it's just like the apocalypse is going on. There's gunfire, there's buildings on fire, you see smoke, you see people getting run over by vehicles. People who are zombies are chasing it's just utter chaos. And it's like the first 5 or 6 minutes of the movie. And then bam, the opening credits start. And it's Johnny Cash when the man comes around.
I love Johnny Cash, yeah.
So that song starts playing and it's just a bunch of news reel
of it happening everywhere.
Oh, wow. You can tell some of it's real footage of riots and stuff like that they put in there.
Right.
It is a fantastic opening scene.
Wow.
You need to watch the movie.
You've intrigued me.
So,
I definitely
I have the DVD. You're gonna either go home with it or you're gonna go home and rent it. One of the two. But you're gonna watch that movie.
That sounds very intriguing. And I like the juxtaposition. Like you think it's all normal, and then it's the opposite. Yeah, I guess Snyder knows how to do openings, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I saw this one at the theater. I mean, I was old. I think this came out this was late 90s, it was 2004. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was 24 years old. So I can remember going and watch this and just being wowed.
Yeah.
Because you may have seen zombies not move a little bit before, but from what I remember, I'm sure people may correct me, but from what I remember, that was the first time I really saw like running full sprint zombies.
Yeah, different. Interesting. Yeah, that intrigues me. The way that you described that opening and knowing it's Snyder and that that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I need to check it out. I guess I'll throw in some honorable mentions.
Sure. Throw some.
So one of the honorable mentions I wrote down was in fact Inglourious Basterds, but we already talked about that. Definitely awesome opening. This one's kind of a silly one, but that's why I didn't include it on my list. But I love the opening to the first Guardians of the Galaxy because it opens. I've
only seen it once, so I don't really remember.
Well, I'll try to describe it. So it opens kind of like Raiders, but a spacey version, because Guardians is and takes place in outer space. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord lands on a planet. He's got a mask on. And he has this projector that's projecting out and showing him a 3D map of where he's going. So he's looking for something and he's scanning. It's real dark. The music's kind of, just kind of like vibration kind of beats, like it's real cerebral and serious. And he's scanning, looking, and then he makes it to this structure and he goes in it and all of a sudden he puts his headphones on. And the mood completely changes, and it's Come and Get Your Love, and he's listening to that, and he's dancing around, and he's sliding, and it's just him. He's just being a guy, just joking around. It's like when you're cleaning up the house and you turn the music on and you're just kind of playing around. That's what he's doing. And then once he gets up to this orb, he tries to switch it like Indiana Jones. So it's definitely an homage to that. But I do
kind of remember.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It's a fun opening.
It's a fun opening because he's just goofing around like a guy, and then when he has to get serious, he gets serious. But that's an opening that's always stuck with me. It's fun. And then I'll just mention my other one. It's a little dated, but Red Dawn, the original.
Yeah.
The original. My dad had showed it to me when I was a kid, and that opening is insane. Just the idea of it. These kids in a classroom. And it's kind of a mundane, kind of boring. And then all of a sudden, there's these paratroopers coming down. And then they start lighting up the classroom. And the teacher gets killed. The kids are running. And it's just that idea is like, what the heck would you do? Because that could happen. I hate to say it.
Well, look at Russia and Ukraine. It kind of happened there.
Yeah, like that could happen. And I believe the villains are Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just, and then the kids are jumping in cars trying to escape. Some survive, some don't. And it's just that idea.
I remember that, but I don't remember that being the opening scene.
Yeah, it's right at the beginning.
Okay.
And that scene sticks with me. It's one of the ones I thought of, and I was like, I got to include that, even if it's honorable mention, because You know, just the idea, you're just bored staring out the window, and all of a sudden these paratroopers start coming down.
Well, I had 2009's Friday the 13th. So it's they rebooted it, and I don't know if they were gonna try to do more movies, but I guess it wasn't popular enough, so they only did one. And it's actually really good. But I saw it in the theater with my buddy Mike, and so the movie starts out, these I think it's four kids, two couples, and they're looking for some marijuana, like these marijuana plants. So they're in the woods hiking and whatnot. And of course, it ends up at Crystal Lake, this old abandoned whatever.
Right.
So the opening, I'm telling you, it's almost 20 minutes long.
Wow.
You really think that these are going to be the main characters in the movie.
Oh.
But then Jason shows up and he just starts cutting people like normal. And it's wild. He's running, he's jumping. I mean, you've never seen Jason move like this before.
Okay.
And then he goes and this girl is on the ground and she's screaming. He runs up to her and he does one of these. And right whenever the machete is going to hit her in the face, it just flashes black screen and then comes up Friday the 13th.
That is.
So I remember in the theater, I was like, oh my God, that was just the intro? But it went off for like 15 minutes, So that's a really good one.
That subverts your expectations too, because you think you're going to be
you're thinking these, and then no, they're all gone after the intro, and then it introduces the real characters. So
interesting.
They wanted to introduce you to Jason to let you know what kind of Jason you were getting in for, because everybody knows who Jason is at this point. It's no secret.
Right.
So they went, okay, we're going to show how bad this Jason is before we really introduce the main character. So that's a good one.
Do you think that opening is better than the original opening?
Yeah, because the original one is, it was 1980.
Right.
It's really slow. It's a POV shot. This person, have you seen the original?
No.
Okay. So this person, you see the POV of the killer.
Okay.
And there's two counselors making out, about to do the wild thing, and next thing you know, just stabs the boy, and then the girl's like, no, and then just it's in slow motion, then it just stops, and then it comes up Friday 13th. So it's just dated and whatnot. So it's completely different.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that's it. Like, it kind of reminds me, I remember Scream, how
Drew Barrymore, long opening scene and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that
Drew Barrymore
was going to be like a main character in the movie, and then she's killed off in the first.
Right.
Yeah. Very, very similar to that.
Interesting.
And then my other one was, and the reason I didn't use this one was because it was another Quentin Tarantino movie, Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, okay.
The opening scene where they're all just sitting around the table talking, just about random, like normal guy stuff.
Right.
None of it has anything to do with the plot of the movie or the heist that they're about to try to pull off. Nothing.
He's famous for that.
Yeah. So it's just a good little 5-10 minute. Well, it's about 10 minutes, I guess, opening. But yeah, it's really good. Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie?
I've seen it, but it's been a long time.
Okay. So he's in the movie, and he's telling a story about what he thinks Madonna's song "Like a Virgin" is really about.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
okay. Yeah, I've seen it.
He's thinking about dick, and they're like, I got Madonna's big dick in one ear and Toby out the next. It's a great scene.
That's funny. It's kind of like in Pulp Fiction when Sam Jackson and John Travolta are talking about like movie pilots before they go to a room to get somebody. Like, it has nothing to do with what they're about to do.
Yeah, they're talking about no, he's talking about that with what's her name? Mia Wallace. Uma Thurman, he's talking about the movie pilot.
Oh, okay.
With Samuel Jackson, they're talking about another employee named Tony, nicknamed Tony Rocker Horror, that had gotten thrown out of a window for giving Mia a foot massage.
Oh, Mia,
so they're talking about all that stuff before they have to go in and kill some guys and take the briefcase.
Right. I remember that.
So yeah, all right. Cool. Well, I think that was fun. That was a good little list.
I liked it. It was fun. We'll try to change it up here and there, do some more fun stuff like that. It was fun.
Well, I hope everyone at home enjoyed it. And please like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.